37.9 million. That's the number of Americans currently living in poverty, representing 11.6% of the total population.
The number of homeless people on the streets and in shelters across the U.S. increased significantly this year.
Since 2000, the number of poor people living in suburbs has grown by 65%.
Prices in the U.S. are climbing at their fastest rate in 40 years, up more than 8% from 2021.
That means 1 in 7 Americans is now officially poor.
Despite the United States ranking as the wealthiest nation in the world in terms of GDP, the country is known for this great abundance and, at the same time, widespread poverty and economic insecurity.
The richest 1% controls more wealth now than at any time in more than a half century.
That data revealed that the top 1% hold nearly 10 times more wealth than the bottom 50% combined.
With approximately 11% of the federal budget allocated to economic security programs, the United States has been combating poverty for decades. However, poverty remains a major concern for Americans.
Over the course of the pandemic, millions of Arizonans have filed for unemployment through the Department of Economic Security. And during that time, people trying to access their benefits have dealt with long payment delays and difficulty communicating with DES.
Issues such as inflation, inequality, and wage stagnation have meant that despite living in the wealthiest nation in the world, millions of Americans continue to struggle with poverty every day. So, why are there so many poor people in the wealthiest nation in the world, and why can't the United States end poverty? Poverty in the United States has been a persistent problem over the years, despite efforts to improve the situation. Over the last decade, there was a gradual improvement in poverty rates, with a decrease from 48.8 million people in 2013 to 34 million in 2019. However, the COVID-19 pandemic dramatically changed the economic landscape, negatively impacting job access and financial stability for many vulnerable families.
Of course, staying at home is our best defense against coronavirus, but it's also making it hard for so very many to survive financially.
The coronavirus pandemic is taking more of a toll on low-income families across the country.
60 million people are expected to fall into extreme poverty because of the virus.
Poverty not only has significant human costs, but also represents a burden for all Americans. An estimated $665 billion is allocated to economic security programs every year. Additionally, child poverty alone has an estimated cost of over $1 billion annually, according to recent research.
In the United States, child poverty has reached record levels, with over 16 million children now affected.
Income inequality is one of the leading causes of the high poverty rate in the United States. The top 10% of the population's income is more than 13 times higher than the bottom 10%, according to U.S. Census data. This income gap creates significant barriers for people to lift themselves out of poverty and ascend to the middle or upper class. The COVID-19 pandemic further exacerbated economic inequality, with a 1.2% increase in the Gini index, which measures income inequality in 2021. While some large corporations were able to provide bonuses and wage increases to their employees, many small businesses and workers did not have the same opportunity, widening the gap between the richest and the poorest.
COVID has amplified inequality by race, income, gender, occupation, and nationality.
Hundreds of millions of people are being forced into poverty, while the richest, both individuals and corporations, are getting even richer thanks to soaring stock prices.
Insufficient wages are another contributing factor to poverty in the United States. The federal minimum wage of $7.25 per hour is well below the MIT estimated living wage of $24.16 per hour for a family of 4. This means that many families need to have multiple full-time jobs just to reach a decent wage, further hindering their ability to escape poverty.
Side hustles aren't just a way to make a little extra cash on the side anymore.
Yeah, Sox Hive's Kendall Green shows us it's a new study that finds an alarming number of people are relying on them just to make ends meet.
The number of Americans working 2 or more jobs has reached its highest level since the pandemic began.
Poverty also disproportionately affects certain communities, especially racial minorities. More than half of the population at risk of falling into poverty or already living in poverty are people of color, reflecting the economic and social disparities entrenched in the country.
More than 38 million Americans live in poverty. For Black Americans, it's 1 in every 5, higher than Latinos, Asian Americans, and more than double the rate of white Americans.
The lack of effective social safety nets also contributes to the persistence of poverty in the United States. Although assistance programs like Medicaid and SNAP exist, benefits are often insufficient to cover families' basic needs. Additionally, the current benefit system often disincentivizes employment and economic mobility by penalizing those who find work.
Emergency SNAP food stamps benefits are coming to an end. It's thanks to the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023, apparently halting emergency benefits nationwide.
The official measurement of poverty in the United States is based on outdated calculations from the mid-1960s, underestimating the true magnitude of the problem. Although a supplemental poverty measure was developed in 2011 to address some deficiencies of the official measure, there are still criticisms about its accuracy and relevance. The difficulty in accurately measuring poverty hinders efforts to effectively address the problem. Without a clear understanding of the extent and underlying causes of poverty, it is challenging to implement policies and programs that address the real needs of affected individuals.
Reducing poverty is a worthy goal for any government, but first knowing the size of the problem and also how it hits people is important. Our current measures of poverty don't do a great job at either.
Real cost measure covers things like housing, food, transportation, healthcare, taxes, and childcare. On average, 30% of San Diegans aren't making enough.
The effects of poverty go beyond financial resources. It also contributes to mental and physical health problems, increasing anxiety, stress, and other psychological disorders. Feelings of depression and hopelessness are common among those living in poverty, reflecting the harsh reality of facing resource scarcity in a country known for its wealth.
There's a link between mental health and financial health. And right now, with the rising cost of living, so many Central Texans are feeling the stress.
Living costs in Austin go up. It's becoming harder for low-income families to make ends meet.
Politics plays a crucial role in combating poverty in the United States. During the COVID-19 pandemic, government assistance led to a significant decrease in the supplemental poverty measure, demonstrating the positive impact effective social policies can have.
Cook County is restarting its emergency cash program, and this time there is a lot more money available for people struggling in this pandemic. The county hopes to help more than 10,000 people.
To address poverty comprehensively, a multifaceted approach is necessary, including measures to reduce income inequality, increase wages, strengthen social safety nets, and improve poverty measurement. Additionally, it is crucial to recognize and address racial and ethnic disparities that perpetuate poverty in certain communities. Poverty in the United States is a complex problem that requires a collective and coordinated response. Through effective policies and programs, along with a renewed focus on accurately measuring poverty, it is possible to address this challenge and work toward a more equitable and prosperous future for all Americans. At Economy Media, your opinion matters to us. Subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments below.